everyone and welcome back to my channel. This is Glossy Philosophy. My name is Jansen Binman. Make sure that you are subscribed to this channel. Give this video a thumbs up because today we are talking about the incredible book Driftwood by Marie Brennan, so stay tuned. If you've heard of Marie Brennan, then I bet you know her series, the Lady Trent series, which is phenomenal, and I'm sure at some point will show up on the book talk rotation. But the one that I felt like really fit with the theme this year of what are we fighting for was Driftwood. Driftwood is obviously an imaginary place where it's like all of these worlds come to die, basically. So there's a center nucleus of what we don't exactly know, and it is just all worlds, all kinds of entities. It's people, it's creatures, it's a combination of things. And what happens to them as these worlds and these people get eaten up by the crush is what they call it. There's a certain point where you can walk and continue, and then all of a sudden you just completely disappear. Buildings, people just completely disappear as they get sucked into the crush. Now, on first reading this, you might think that this is all happening really, really quickly, but as you pick up more details from the book, you realize that this actually takes a really, really long time, which almost makes the end of the worlds, of all these different worlds and all these different peoples, even sadder, because you have such a long time to realize that things are a little bit off, things aren't functioning as they normally do in your world, and things start to slowly disappear, and then all of a sudden your people don't belong, your land doesn't belong, and you become kind of like a nomad. So Driftwood in and of itself is like this amalgamation of all these different worlds, all these different peoples. Some of them still have their places of residence, but maybe it's like a teeny tiny part, maybe it's like one building. Some have quite a bit left, and some have nothing at all. There's also a really interesting idea from Marie Brennan where as you pass from one world onto the next, there's almost like a barrier, and you might not be able to exist in the world next to you on either side. So you might actually become completely trapped. Or if you can find a guide to help you through any other worlds, then you might survive. So it comes down to some really interesting ideas of the apocalypse, basically, for all of these different people. What would that feel like? What would you do to save your world if you could? The other brilliant thing that Marie Brennan has done is she has created a character called Last. We don't actually know his name, but we know that he has been around for a very, very long time in Driftwood. His land has been gone forever. He is the last of his kind, and he is also the one that seems to not be able to be killed. He takes lots of risks. He knows pretty much everybody. He knows most of the worlds, especially as they continue to change. He is a guide, and he is able to get things for you, whatever you need, get information, get materials, take chances with you, and it is just Driftwood. The book is basically a collection of stories from lots and lots of creatures and people and entities that have known Last. And what has happened is someone has started a rumor that Last has finally died, or he's run away and hid so well that no one can find him. And so all of these people gather in this kind of amphitheater and begin to tell stories and begin to grieve that Last is gone, because it feels like without Last, what is Driftwood after all? And we hear stories about his courage, about his silliness, about his caring, and about his pain, his own personal pain. One story, I've read this book at least twice, and one story that always sticks with me is that Last is very difficult to find. He doesn't want to be found, so you really have to kind of go after him, and he really hates it when you follow him, because he's been around for a while and he just wants to be hired. He doesn't want to be followed. He doesn't want to be bothered with how do I save my world? How do I continue to live? Because he doesn't know. But there's a person or an entity that kind of follows him around, finally gets a hold of Last and begs and asks, how am I going to save my land? And Lass goes through a couple, like, I don't know, I can't help you, whatever. And it's obvious that this creature will not leave him alone and will continue to follow him forever, and basically is just looking for some kind of hope. And so Lass tells him a formula of how to save his world. And it's heartbreaking because after the person leaves, Lass knows that he's just told him a complete lie, but has given him some hope. And what the power of hope has done for that person is really incredible. And then another person comes along shortly after that and says, I know that you can't save us, but can you help me remember? Can you help me tell the stories of my people? I need help with my memory. I need this to pass on. And he takes this creature to this very special place that's kind of hidden in the Driftwood worlds, where you go and you basically have to dance very, very close. And it is that close contact that creates this sharing effect of memory. And this creature's memories go into Lass. So Lass can kind of keep these memories, but also just help this person forget as well some of the pain of losing their world, but then some of Lass's memories transfer onto this other creature. And we find out that Lass isn't just this, stone, stoic kind of being. He actually has loved and lost and felt great amounts of pain. And the reason why he runs is because he doesn't want to remember. He also is trying to forget. Another of my favorite stories is when a friend of Lass tries all these inventions because they want to create a map of Driftwood as it is like that week, because obviously things are changing. The crush is engulfing so many worlds. So he invents a hot air balloon basically and takes Lass up into the basket of the hot air balloon, and it is a magical moment for Lass. And because we know that he has felt pain at this particular moment, the joy that Lass feels as told through the other character feels very joyful and wonderful for the reader to be able to release some of that angst that we've been reading about. The last story I want to talk about is the actual last story told by basically a priestess that is traveling around Driftwood trying to collect souls. And it is a very cautionary tale of how when you see something horrible happening and when you have tremendous trauma happen to you yourself, you can almost fool your brain into thinking one thing and being okay with doing horrible things because you have created this basically fantasy in your head that in order to create peace, in order to create community, you have to go after somebody. You have to go after someone weaker, a community that's weaker. You have to blame somebody. And it is very chilling, but also things that we've seen in our own history, and just an interesting twist on kind of that explanation of how horrific events like the Holocaust can happen. At the end of the book, we don't know if Lass has actually died, if he has committed suicide, if he has vanished, what has happened to Lass. We really don't know. And I love that. I love the idea of kind of a cliffhanger, but it also feels very finished as well. I don't feel angry like I need to chuck this book somewhere. I feel very full of all of these different tales and how Lass has touched all these different creatures' lives and either made them better or made them more thoughtful or something. And again, I think it's really an exploration of what lengths are we going to go to when things go wrong? Are we going to be kind of like the priestess and go off the cliff and create chaos because we ourselves are feeling so much chaos? Are we going to try to forget everything and just kind of move on in this brain wiped mentality? Or are we going to actually face what's happening and try to make the best of it by either making a map or making friends or traveling and getting to know what is going on with all of these different worlds and not create chaos? And I also like that the character Last, and I think Marie Brennan does this really well in Lady Trent, creates Last as a very three-dimensional character. You don't know if you really like him or you're frustrated with him. He feels very human, even though he's not a human. So obviously, I highly recommend any of Marie Brennan's books, but I definitely recommend Driftwood. It is something very different than I've read before. I like that the idea of Driftwood and Last, the characters being told from so many different perspectives, because if we think about it, if someone was telling the story of our lives, it would be very different based on our own interactions with different people in various parts of our lives. So I thought that was really interesting, and it definitely gave me pause to think, how would I react if my world was slowly being dissolved into the crush. I normally do fashion and beauty videos on Wednesdays, but every first Wednesday of the month I do a book talk. If you are reading along or enjoy this book talk, make sure that you check the description bar below, because I have links to all of 2025's book talks, as well as the books that are coming up. Thank you for reading with me. Thank you for watching this, and I will see you very soon in the next one. Bye.